Yes,
You're good to go.
thank you. Sorry for the delay. Hey, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Advance Arlington's November Zoom program. My name is Doug Taylor, and I'm pleased to be your moderator tonight. I'm an Advanced Arlington board member and also a member of the program committee. I'm also a lawyer with Bean, Kinney, and Corman in Arlington. A little bit on Advance Arlington. For more than 17 years, the organization has been nonpartisan and agenda-free discussions. We put those on important issues facing Arlington. And tonight's issue is no exception. We know that artificial intelligence is here, and we have a group of distinguished panelists here to talk about what AI means for education in Arlington. Next slide, please. A few housekeeping matters before we get started. First, we want to give thanks to our sponsors. We're honored to recognize our sustaining sponsors, Strategic Analysis, Arlington Food Assistance Center, Jean Broyhill, Ed and Anita Nolan, the Italian stores Tremonte family, Ginger Jeffrey and John Andelin, and the Arlington Community Foundation. Thank you all for your generosity. And we'd also like to give thanks to our many other sponsors who supported our 70th anniversary celebration in June, as well as to all of you who have renewed your memberships this year. So mark your calendars. Our next program will be on January 8th, 2025. And be on the lookout for more details to come. We should have those out shortly. So we hope that you will take notice of the real commitment by Advance Arlington to forward new ideas and discussions in interesting ways. We're a volunteer working board, and we need your support by becoming a member, a sponsor, or both. Your financial support helps Advance Arlington cover operational and technical expenses. For over 70 years, we have honored our commitment to provide neutral and informative programming. We do not advocate, we simply inform. Your financial support will ensure that this type of programming endures. Everything you need to know is at our website at advance-arlington.org, advance-arlington.org. So with that out of the way, let's get on to our program. I'll be your moderator and am pleased to introduce tonight's panel to discuss artificial intelligence and what it means for Arlington schools. Our first panelist is Amanda Molina. She is an attorney specializing in artificial intelligence, data privacy, and cybersecurity at Microsoft Corporation, while also serving as a captain for the Judge Advocate General in the United States Air Force Reserve Corps. She is currently attending Oxford University, pursuing her executive diploma in artificial intelligence, and serves as a member of the American Society for Artificial Intelligence. She regularly guest lectures at Georgetown for an intelligence course and teaches artificial intelligence principles. She also advocates for education in AI topics and started a blog entitled sidebars.com, where she is the lead writer. Amanda, welcome. Next is Brian Stockton. Brian is Chief of Staff for Arlington Public Schools. Brian is an experienced executive leader with a proven track record leading organizational change and executive business and financial strategies. He has a lot of experience in identifying and applying the strengths and opportunities of an organization's operations to implement change, confront problems, and create positive, productive workplaces. Brian, excuse me. Brian has over 20 years of experience coaching leaders in the area of corporate culture, managing day-to-day operations for large organizations, school districts, and government agencies. Brian graduated from Howard University with a bachelor's degree in journalism and holds a management certificate from Georgetown University. He's also a graduate of the National Superintendent's Academy. Brian, welcome.
Thank you.
Next up is Raj Adsumili, and I'm sorry, Raj, for best I can with your last name. And Raj is the Assistant Superintendent for Technology and Information Services at Arlington Public Schools. Raj is responsible for the operations of all information systems, including the design, development, deployment, training, and operations of all information technology solutions for APS Business, and instructional users for conducting workshops and training on the use of technology and leading technology initiatives K through 12. Raj has a bachelor's degree in technology from Nagarjuna University in India. He holds a master's degree in business administration from Duke University and a master's in computer science from George Mason University. Raj, welcome. Next up on our panel is Jacqueline Furster, who is an accomplished instructional technology integration specialist with a diverse background in education and technology. Over her 28-year career, she has held various positions at elementary, middle, and high school levels, beginning as a special education teacher and later teaching history, English, and advanced academics. Jacqueline has also worked for the CTE, STEM, and Personalized Learning Office in the Department of Teaching and Learning. A common thread throughout her career has been a passion for integrating STEM-rich emerging technology into any curriculum. Jacqueline was awarded the PBS Digital Innovator Award for the state of Virginia, which opened many opportunities in instructional technology. Currently, she works for the Department of Information Services for Arlington Public Schools, supporting staff in the use of instructional technologies to promote and enhance student learning and engagement. Jacqueline, welcome. And last but certainly not least is Star Muir, who is an associate professor in the Department of Communications at George Mason University. Star received his PhD from the University of Pittsburgh in rhetoric and communication, his MA from the University of Central Florida in communications studies, and his BA from Wake Forest University in communications. Star has focused his research most recently on the challenges of teaching, learning, and labeling for digital natives as they navigate their online social media environments. Star has taught writing intensive courses for over 30 years and has presented writing and communication workshops to the Centers for Disease Control, the Office on Women's Health, and the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health. Star has received several teaching awards at the local and national levels, and his innovative educational media won both Telly and Communicator Awards of distinction. Most recently, he has served as the president of the National Communication Association. So welcome to you, Star. Really distinguished panel, and can't wait to get started with them. Just as a note, if you have any questions for any or all of the speakers, you can put it in the chat function and we will get to as many questions as we can. Although I will note in advance that we have received a number of questions in advance from viewers, so we will do our best to get to as many questions as we have time for them. So with that in mind, let's turn to Amanda Molina. Amanda, welcome, and the floor is yours.
Great. Thanks so much, Doug. I'm very honored to be part of this esteemed panel. If you give me 1 second, I'm just going to set up a quick PowerPoint slide. So thanks so much for that introduction, and happy to be with you all here this evening. Amanda Molina. As I mentioned, I have a pretty wide range of experience in the AI space, not just in the private sector with big tech, but also in the public sector. So with that being said, I'm going to speak very quickly because I want to make sure that everyone gets their allotted time tonight. But at the end, aside from just this panel, I'm happy to answer questions even after the event. So what is AI? Let's first talk about that. So AI seems to be this very hot topic word that everyone kind of like gets thrown around a lot. I did not draw that picture. I actually got that from online. AI is essentially, it seems pretty complicated, but it's actually really simple. It's just machines essentially having the intelligence of a human or engaging in cognitive functions that are similar to human intelligence. So that really focuses a lot on pattern recognition, decision making, and learning. A lot of the generative AI or the kind of chat GPTs that you'll see, machine learning, these are all neural networks. They're all subsets of artificial intelligence. And I just wanted to mention that AI has actually been around since the 1950s. So it's nothing new necessarily, but how we're engaging technology and a lot of the breakthroughs have happened in the last 5 to 10 years, especially. So what are the most common applications of AI? The most common that I think would be applicable for what we do in Arlington and what we might do in public schools are computer vision. A lot of that might be security or how you authenticate people. audio, as well as just speech to text recognition and language. And language it both covers those large language models, or those chat GPTs, if you may, but it also covers translation services, things of that sort. So I wanted to briefly just touch on opportunities and risk of what AI, the challenges that we have, the benefits and the concerns that we see. So just challenges in general, data privacy, especially for children. So that's a big focus on protecting the most vulnerable populations, and children are especially one of those. Equitable access to AI, bias, teacher and student literacy in the space, and a lack of accountability. And as I mentioned, I'm just going to briefly kind of give an introduction, but my colleagues here on the panel are going to go a lot more in depth in what's going on locally and what's, how it's being applied. So where are concerns? Number one concern I hear is plagiarism, access to apps that create realistic deepfakes. And I really want to hammer on this point a little bit because I think that it's something that gets a little bit overlooked, especially when it comes to ensuring parents are just as educated as the staff and the students on that. We've recently seen a couple cases throughout the United States, from New York to California, with students getting charged with dissemination of child pornography, where they're taking pictures of other students and creating pornographic images. A little bit heavy topic for this evening, but I wanted to mention it because it's important that people be educated about the capabilities of the AI technology, or it's not just, big GPT models that we have to worry about. It's also the concerns in other ways of how the technology can be used. So there's also difficulty in assessing true learning, over-reliance on the technology itself, a lack of creativity. I know for me, coming from a public middle school and high school that was focused on the arts, and being at an arts high school and middle school, that's really important for me, especially as we grow our cognitive functions as a young person, teacher autonomy, and psychological impacts. And then finally, the good stuff. So, right, what are the benefits? Why are we just all this negative? So the benefits really kind of are astronomical. I mean, AI is considered a game-changing technology, and that's for a reason. It's considered one of the most impactful, mostly because it touches different areas of our society. It's not just education. We see it impacting infrastructure, transportation. It's almost every single area can be impacted by this technology itself. So with that, one of the ways we see it in education is personalized learning experiences, enhancing teacher efficiency, where it's able to really identify where kids or students are struggling, or where they need improvement, but also where they're really doing well or excelling. Curriculum development in AI literacy, and support for diverse learners. One thing that I wanted to point out, where I'm seeing some cases, not even just not necessarily in the United States, but in foreign places. Specifically, I read a case in China where they were using AI technology to see how concentrated students were in class. So it was focusing on eye movement. And in that particular case, the issue is that students with autism or other neurodivergent, or even maybe just weren't learners that focused specifically on eye movement, were being labeled as students who were problematic or struggling as learners. So as we consider how AI can be used just in maybe calculating where students are benefiting or not benefiting, those kind of considerations need to be made as well, especially in the accessibility space. And just from my perspective, I just wanted to give some things I'm seeing. So I'll start with the considerations on the right side before I go to my recommendations. Again, this will, I'm sure, be touched on later on. So the considerations I have is Arlington is one of the most technologically advanced counties in the entire United States. And we really just, we can't let that go. I think we would be remiss not to mention the fact that we've won tons of awards, the national level, at the state level, as being one of the top innovative counties. And there's higher education programs at Virginia Tech, at George Mason, and as well as just being a key innovation and development center for the federal agencies, as well as big tech and defense companies, consulting agencies. So with all that in consideration, I wanted to just continue. And again, I know APS is going to talk about this, but I believe we should consider building on our frameworks that we've already established. There's a couple questions that we'll touch on later about the ethical use of AI and how we build out that. I know APS already has a framework. So we should continue building a framework on how AI should be used, providing resources not just for educators, but for students, and empowering the implementation of vetted AI tools. But one thing I didn't see as much on the school website is something that we should be doing, as I mentioned with the deepfakes, is ensuring that parents are educated. And if you're on this, I commend you for, if you're a parent, for being interested in wanting to learn, because that's already a huge step. And the last thing, again, is exploring the use of the tools focused on diverse populations, because as our populations shift, we want to ensure that those students are ready for the workforce. And we have a huge, just in general, AI hub, but just technology in general in the area. So we would be remiss not to ensure that our students are well prepared for that space. So I'll kick it off to the next person.
Thanks, Amanda. Great start. Next up is Brian Stockton. Brian, the floor is yours.
All right, great. Amanda, thank you for that. And again, I'm Brian Stockton, Chief of Staff at Arlington Public Schools. And really, want to kind of talk about the ways I think we're leading the integration of artificial intelligence within our educational setting at Arlington Public Schools. Our journey began, I would say, with a vision of our forward-thinking superintendent, Dr. Duran. He recognized early on the immense potential of this technology. He challenged us to get ahead of the curve, or just told me to make it happen, knowing that AI is transforming industries worldwide and that education should be no exception. Guided by this charge, basically what I did, you all actually, I just pulled together a team at the end of April. We meet every Friday just to talk about AI. I first started working with our information services team, who you'll hear from. I'm gonna cut my speech short so you can hear from them. But just talking about some of the problems that we were having. We were having problems in some of our schools where teachers were saying things were built by, AI, the plagiarism that just Amanda just mentioned. And so we thought this was just a bad thing. But however, in working with my IS department, we saw that again on the right side of Amanda's chart, the first slide that she had, there's so many benefits. It's such an innovative tool, and how could we do it? But also, what we needed to do was provide a framework, as she just mentioned, and guidance for our teachers. And so we wanted to make sure we had guidance in place for our teachers before school started. We had it out there. We have instructional technology coordinators that work in our schools with our schools to kind of help them with that as well. And also, we had them test a lot of different tools because we didn't want to be a school district that was actually trying to manage so many different AI tools. And Jackie will talk about that as well. So we had them test tools, so tools that they like that they could use and that we could manage at the same time as well. So in listening to our teachers, listening to our schools, listening to our instructional technology coordinators, and also working with Jackie and Raj, we created a framework. And as a result of that, again, we still have a lot of work to do, as Amanda pointed out from the parents, but we have become a model across the district. In fact, the state trainers that the state superintendent Coons is actually training every school district across the state. And so basically, we were part of that training. So one training we went to, they were trying to teach us, and we were kind of confused because we already had it built. And so with that, the trainer said that we're setting the standard across the state. And so they're actually showing the work that we're doing in Arlington all across the state. And I think he trains nationally as well. So he's showing it around the country of what a framework should look like. And again, it's under construction, and we're going to continue to build and add to it. And some of the things that you mentioned about deep fakes and so forth, we're now going to add our security team to our meetings. We're going to add our instructional designers to our meetings so we can continue to build on that. And so with that, through AI, we're preparing our students for a future, one that requires adaptability, create critical thinking, technological fluency, and harnessing AI to personalize learning and helping our teachers to tailor instruction to meet individual student needs. This allows us to foster a more inclusive and engaging educational environment and empowering our students to reach their full potential. But enough from me. I'm just the guy who actually took the charge for the superintendent to make it happen. I pulled together the team, I set the direction, but I want to kind of give it over to Raj and Jackie to talk about some of the things that we've done and some of the questions that you all have given us prior to this. So I'll give it over to you, Raj.
Yeah. Good evening, everybody. Just going to keep it short. I think Obviously, we talked about, and let's focus just purely on K-12 education and its schools, because, Amanda did a good job of presenting everything in the big picture.
Great.
So obviously, when we were talking about the values, we have always been, APS has always been focused on trying to improve personalized learning for students. Our kind of prior strategic plan has been focused on that. Our current strategic plan is also focused on that. And then we've actually continued to work on that. We see AI definitely playing a big role as it actually grows in the future into this arena. So obviously that is one aspect that we are really focused on to see how and what we could do. Tailored assessments, because it kind of makes it very easy for students to show their learning and mastery of their concepts in different ways, which leads to tailored tutoring opportunities. That is another aspect that is being focused upon. I think that's one thing that we will actually evaluate in the future. But there's also an analysis part of it that we are actually also looking at in easier ways. Like Amanda already mentioned, there's a kind of maybe to detect and identify individual learning challenges. How are we able to use that and actually try to get them accelerated on intervention, get them accelerated on a path for success, right? That's definitely another one. In the same tone, there's also efficiencies and value at the district level in terms of, for strategic plan, how are we doing and where are the pockets of areas that we need to focus on could actually be something that the tools can actually very easily predict and easily point out, drilling them down to different schools and different populations, and actually even recommending certain things based on our prior experience. So all of these opportunities are there, but the most important, I would actually stress on the most important resource that we have in Arlington is teacher time, because I think the most important thing that is of high return is actually if the teachers are able to focus more on the students, right? I think that is where we are right now focused on actually saying what could we do more around, trying to get them and get their classroom preparations easier, finding relevant material easier, building their lesson plans and creating assignments and those kind of things. If we are able to cut their preparation time to half, imagine what we could do in terms of impact on the teaching in today's classroom. I think to me that has been the focus. And that's what we are actually focused on. But just to summarize this, there are three strands, right? Obviously, there is the infrastructure aspect of it that we are actually focused on. There is the teaching and learning aspect of it, where the plagiarism, like the ethical use of the things in the classroom, how to guide them is another one. And the third one is the safety and security. All three are important. All three are being discussed, and all three are actually being kicked off. But just to provide us a framework of how we are thinking, that's what we have actually developed. And I'm going to pass it on to Jackie to walk us through that.
Yes, thank you. So I'm basically just going to kind of give a little bit more of an overview of the journey that we've been on since we started this last spring, like Brian mentioned. We began exploring the potential of generative AI in education. Like Virginia, we designated the 24-25 school year as our year of learning to understand and better integrate it as an emerging technology. That's where we kind of started looking at this, doing the research in the background, getting the background knowledge that we needed. Our initiative, like they mentioned, began with the generative guidance document, which was developed by a steering committee led by Brian and consisted of members of various departments in APS, including academics, the diversity, equity, inclusion, and student support team, and my department, information services. And we shared this guidance with teachers, principals, the school board, like our ed tech advisory committee, because we wanted to make sure that we had feedback and buy-in from our stakeholders right off the bat before we made it public anywhere else. The work that was based on the 7 principles that you see there on the screen, hopefully there are tenets to guide the statements, which helped us align our already existing approaches that we had in APS, while also supporting our plan for moving through this year of learning. In the summer, we also had a volunteer group of about 40 staff members evaluating and providing us with feedback on some of the most popular products available at the time. And the work of those volunteers during the summer allowed us to settle on a very short list of recommended and vetted tools that we were hoping that our staff would begin to try out this year. that plan has really flourished. We get really good feedback, and the more teachers who learn and adopt these tools, the better feedback we're getting. Our plan is to really focus on, like they mentioned, ethical and responsible use, as well as purposeful AI education. And as was already mentioned by Amanda, being prepared to respond to any security concerns that come up for our staff and students. We understand that those are priorities for us in this development, and our planning really reflects that, is trying to reflect that as we go through the year and learn more. We also understand that in order to use these tools effectively, it's really important to train our staff first. So we're offering a 4-part self-paced foundational skills course on generative AI for all staff. That includes instructional and non-instructional staff. And the course will hopefully provide all of our staff members with the knowledge and skills that they need in order to really promote their teaching with this tool, and also help with administrative tasks. One of the tools that we shared is to encourage the use of like a sustainable and secure chatbot, which is Copilot we use. It's already provided as part of our Microsoft ecosystem, so it's something that we'll be able to continue to work with our students, and it's already in a data protected environment. So that was a good place for us to start. We'll also be moving forward with piloting instructional technology, 2 instructionally focused tools in our schools involving self-selected teachers and led by instructional technology coordinators in the buildings. Those tools will be piloting. Those piloted tools will be able to provide us with multiple feedback opportunities and be able to get into the classrooms to see the impact on teaching and learning. And that will help us be able to make informed decisions moving forward. We understand that generative AI has the potential to change the face of education, and through all of the means that you've already seen and heard about, like personalized learning experiences, fostering critical and creative thinking strategies, and supporting higher level thinking. Those are all things that we value greatly in APS and want to promote with the use of these tools.
Jackie,
So, yeah.
I think your notes are showing if you are intending to show some website. I don't know if that's the case. Just want to point that out.
Your 7 strategy.
What? Oh, yeah. That's so weird.
It's okay. Continue.
Hold on one second.
Sorry, didn't mean to break your flow. You can.
No, that's okay. I'm just trying to get back to unsharing my screen.
Okay. You can stop. It's okay.
There we go. It's supposed to be sharing our tenets, our principles. You can see it now, right?
No, we can't see anything. Just you.
Oh, okay. All right. Not used to using Zoom, I guess, just Teams.
Okay.
So, okay, so you just see me. Okay, so looking ahead for the future, we hope to continue integrating AI in our teaching practices, ensuring equitable access for AI tools for students and staff, because we're committed to preparing our students for future education and employment opportunities, because we know that AI isn't going anywhere. So we want to make sure that those things are being addressed, such as bias, data privacy, ethical use of AI. All those things are built into our planning. So basically, we're just really excited about the potential of AI to enhance education, and we definitely look forward to continuing on the path of learning that we've started this year.
Jackie, could you try to at least try to show the 7 tenets one more time? Without the script.
Let me see. Let me see if I can do that. Is it being shared now?
No.
That's so strange. Every time I click on it, it says it's sharing, but no.
There we go. Perfect. So can you walk through this real quick before we finish?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so these are what we based our guidance on, which was teaching and learning, operational efficiency, personal and social well-being of students, that we wanted to make sure that the process was transparent and equitable. We wanted to make sure there was accountability in the guidance built in, and obviously that it reflected privacy, security, and safety, teaching and learning, and all of those components.
That's great. Jacqueline, thank you so much. Raj, likewise, Team APS, great job. Star Muir, the floor is yours.
Yep, thank you. I first really encountered AI a couple of years ago. AI, of course, has been throughout our lives and throughout different decision trees and phone trees for a while. But for the first time, my students could use AI, and they could use it to make the product that I've required them to make for 30 years, a paper. And so that really posed some very interesting kind of different challenges. I will say that one of the things about AI is that it's moving so fast that it's really hard to pin down. And so, a comment that I made in my syllabus at the beginning of the semester no longer applies in the world of AI, and I think that kind of rapidity makes it a little bit challenging. So I just want to talk about a couple of things in my experience of what's happening in higher education. Obviously, with more AI that's doing data-driven decision making, we're going to get some more efficiencies in how we operate as a university, and our interactive system where students come for information and want to fill out forms and want to get like a guided tour. We're already working on making that adaptive to particular interests. And so forth. So that administratively and operationally, there's going to be some impacts there. In terms of the education of our students, I want to say first, I have seen that their writing has improved. And let me just make this clear that George Mason University is one of the top 5 most diverse institutions of public education. We have like students from 140 countries, and so the challenge in the classroom is having them develop the writing skills when they come from a variety of cultures and have varying levels of experience with English, and that is something that AI is spot on perfect for, because I will assign them to run their papers through an artificial intelligence tool in order to get feedback, in order to see where they're making some of their mistakes. And then not only that, but I'll actually have them comment on that process, and then we'll have discussions in class about the utility of it. So, I, of course, have great worries about things like, are my students just going to phone it in? And so I asked them, and let me just read you a representative student comment. I'm reasonably comfortable using AI in my writing process as it offers valuable assistance with idea generation and refining drafts. However, I'm concerned about over-reliance on AI, which might undermine my development of critical writing skills. The potential for AI to streamline tasks and enhance productivity is exciting, but I'm cautious about ensuring originality and maintaining a personal touch in my writing. And then one more, I like how efficient AI is. It is great when you're in a hurry or need some quick ideas. I hate how inauthentic it is and how much people rely on it. It takes away from human creativity. So my students already are demonstrating a familiarity with the fundamental struggle of retaining their own voice and not getting lost in AI. Just a couple of other quick comments. One of them has to do with the ability to research. One thing that you're going to find is not only is research expanded because we're no longer doing the little tedious stuff, right? We can spend a little bit more time on our innovation and our creativity. But not only that, but you're also getting now access to tools and to data sets that were never possible without AI. And that means that not only can graduate students work with faculty on projects, but undergraduates can make significant contributions to research as well. So I think the leveling up of some of that is really important. And then, one of the obvious things that's happening is alternative assessment. Yeah, you're right. Writing a paper may not be worth 75% of a course grade
He's
if a
paused.
student can basically is a lot of interesting kinds of different uses and applications of AI as we figure out how to maximize their creativity, and their skill building for the careers they're going to enter, and also avoid the worst of the ethical problems and the worst of the privacy and bias issues. Thank you.
You're on mute, Doug.
It's amateur night. Thank you, Amanda. So thank you to all the panelists. Terrific discussion. We've got a long way to go with this. I want to jump into some questions. And I'm going to throw this first one to the APS team because I think it's one that people want to know about. What's your best guess as to how extensively AI is being used in the K-12 realm? And what feedback are you getting from your teachers as to how that's all playing out?
I'll kick it off, and Jackie, you can kind of help me finish here. But I would say it's used very extensively, especially in our high schools. One of our high schools in northern Arlington, we don't have that many, you can figure it out. So basically, we were having issues, Doug, right off, starting last year. So when we started meeting in April, the academics team, they were excited that we were talking about this because we were having conflict with parents and teachers. I kind of mentioned this when I did my speech earlier. And so we were trying to look at different ways of how we could, it was being used so much, we didn't know what to do. We were using AI checkers, but however, the AI checkers, Doug, were not reliable. What I mean by that, we actually put the Constitution into the AI checker, and basically it said that 30% of the Constitution was written by AI, and we know that they did not have AI in 1776, right? And so with that, with that being the case, we had to make a decision. And I think what Star mentioned is like, working with the students more, helping them understand and harness the tool, but also work with our teachers on providing that kind of guidance to see like, do we really like start these fights with our parents and our students, or how can we harness it? And I kind of like some of the things that Star said that we probably could use as well. Jackie, you want to kind of talk about some of the things that we heard from Sarah and Carrie?
Sure. So as far as like how whether it's being used in our public schools or not, like certainly staff is they're being encouraged to use it. So we definitely want them learning more about it, getting up to speed on the topic because it's impacting their work whether they know it or not. Because we know that our students are very honest about if you have conversations with them on the side about whether they use it or not. We can tell, from our analytics tool, like how often they try to get to it, even if it's, not available on student devices right now. So we know that it's there. We know that it's not going away. And as far as like the feedback that we're getting from staff, from educators about its use, there is fear about it being used incorrectly, which is why we're trying to really put a lot of focus on offering pathways for dealing with these different negative aspects of generative AI. But as far as the positive side, like we're also getting wonderful feedback on, how excited staff are. As someone who's trained staff in the use of instructional technology for decades, I can honestly say that I rarely get such an easy buy-in as when I'm sharing generative AI tools with staff. It's both a benefit for me and a challenge because I really want my staff to be excited about how transformative these tools are, but I also want them to understand and be very conscious of the risks and the challenges that are associated with using them as well. So it's being used and we're getting lots of feedback, and we hope to just continue that as far as like doing the pilot and all of those pieces.
Doug, can I actually add a small piece to this one?
Sure.
One of
Yes.
the things that is going to be a challenge for us when you ask a specific question, how extensively it's used, is that it is getting embedded in existing platforms, right? When you actually are getting those things embedded into it, it's very hard for you to differentiate the actual use of the AI component versus the actual content that it's actually providing. So to me, it's a loaded question if you really feel like you want to actually answer that question in honesty. the reality of what Jackie presented was that, like, you have APS provided devices, but students have access to non-APS provided devices. They have access to tools on their cell phones. They're actually using that extensively on some of their cell phones. So just wanted to put the context of all that, because now it's a bigger picture.
Yeah,
Thank you.
and if I may add on top of Raj as well, Jackie mentioned in her presentation, Doug, Copilot, and so right now it's something that's embedded in it. And I think when it was first introduced by Raj and Jackie to us, it's a great. So Copilot overlays over Outlook, it overlays over Word, it overlays over Excel, and I haven't used it to this point. Hope to be more extensive with it. I'm thinking that, with Copilot, I think it's in a protected environment, looking at our data. I'm hoping one day, I'm not sure if we can do this now, guys, but if I were going to Yorktown High School, and basically I could actually use Copilot to basically tell me which students are passing in algebra. And that could spit out that data for us as well. So I mean, I think it has a capability right now. Are we using it that way? Not really yet, but we plan on getting there. So like Jackie said, it's our year of learning. So I hope all three of us have answered your question.
Thank you. Star, can I flip that question to you? I read Inside Higher Ed and the Chronicle of Higher Ed on a regular basis, and it feels like not a day goes by that there isn't some article in there, about AI. And so I think in higher ed, it feels like AI is being used to a different degree. Can you talk about usage and sort of faculty reaction to AI use by students?
Yes, I think I mean, it's interesting. I don't know if you're familiar with the Pew Internet Research, and they do a number of reports, and are indicating that, particularly among college students, they're seeing now reports of AI usage getting up, over 60%, and so that's kind of stunning. I think what I found in my informal survey of my students was that, out of about 50 students, I probably had 3 who expressed a clear no AI. So that'll give you the proportion. I had 3 students who, when I asked about using AI and their comfort level with AI, basically answered that they wanted nothing to do with it. How they were raised, whatever their background, they just felt that AI was not going to be something for them. So that means, 47 out of the 50 were either positive or in the middle there, in terms of their response to the tool. Having said that, if you look at the Pew Research Center, you'll also see that most Americans are more concerned than excited about AI, and that many of the college students express a great deal of anxiety about the impacts of AI. Even as it might help them, they see it as, in some ways, destabilizing the careers that they're moving out into. This is particularly true, of course, in communication, the area that I'm in, but it's also true in a wide variety of fields. And so, I think that AI it has that kind of double-edged sword aspect of it for our students. It is both a fear arousal because they see it impacting where they thought they were going, and then it's also a kind of I can do this, I can crank things out easily. My son was very clear. He said, "Dad, I need to do this so that I can keep up with the other people in my generation who are going to use it." And when Flower Darby came and visited our Innovations in Teaching and Learning conference last year, she looked out at the crowd of educators and said, "You may be worried that AI is going to take your job. Don't worry. AI is not going to take your job. But someone who knows how to use AI may take your job." Right. And so, that's a kind of a wake-up call when you start thinking about what kind of skills are people going to have that allow them to be more productive and, in some ways, even more creative, without it. There are challenges with all of that, but yeah, I think it's widespread and it's going to get more and more integrated. And that the faculty who initially started off, no AI, you know, that, I mean, what you quickly discover is that they're going to use it anyway, and you lose the chance to like model it and have the discussion, right? And that's so important. When we talk about ethical use, you can't just say, no, you can't do that, because they can. The question is, when you do that, what does that do to your own skill set that you bring to the workplace? What does that do to your own sense of ownership and satisfaction at having produced something that's meaningful? So.
Thank you very much. So next question, Amanda, I hope this isn't unfair, but I'm going to throw this one out for you and then open it up to the panel. It is often said that any tool can be used for good or for bad, but what safety features ought to be incorporated into AI?
Yeah, thanks for that. And I think it's kind of been touched on a lot about the fears of AI. Even I touched on it pretty extensively. I think with any game-changing technology, especially one as powerful as artificial intelligence, it's important to understand that it's going to be used for good and bad. It's the nature of dual use technology. When a lot of these GPTs first like broke, which are like the chat GPTs. I'm just going to refer to chat GPT since it was one of the first movers, by the way. I don't have any preference. I don't speak on behalf of Microsoft, although I'm a big Copilot fan. But so to answer the question, there needed to be safeguards in place because you could ask it to generate, a whole slew of things, including how to make a bomb. And it will not allow you to do that now, but it did early on. And there were ways to get around that. So when we're considering ethics and responsible use of AI, there's a lot of different areas to touch, but I think that the three most prominent that come to me are transparency. How is this being used and what are its outcomes? And that goes directly into bias. And like I mentioned, the ethical use. And just to give a quick example, I know that we're focused on school, but even in other spaces, there's use of this technology not being trained on diverse populations, how the models are being trained. And so it'll, for example, there's a famous case with banking, for example, where it's was trained on historical models where it wasn't even giving women like certain amount of credit card limits because women weren't even allowed to have credit cards until the 70s. So it was like, oh, you only get a certain amount of limitation, even if you have a very similar background as someone of the same of a different gender. So we see that as well, the bias piece. So I think those are the big ones. And then the final one is just ethics in general, in the sense of ensuring that we're thinking about being responsible and thinking about trust. Are these being built for human outcomes and rather than the machines themselves? And so, I mean, again, I work in the military as well. So like lethal autonomous weapons, that's another use of AI that we're not going to talk about in public school system, but that's how far the technology can go. So when you're talking about killer robots, like literal killer robots, obviously the fear is going to be there. But the things that are raised here is how can, in the public schools, how can it be used in different ways? And so when we're thinking about the tools that we're using at home, and what we're commonly seeing, I mean, you've been using AI far before. I mean, you've been using Chat GPT, Google Maps. A lot of these technologies already existed prior to the big GPTs, like dropping with Chat GPT, but Netflix already uses AI type of algorithms to your likes and that type of thing. So when we're thinking about it, I think we need to consider all of the positive impacts and then consider those factors and where's the line and how we want to use it and what are the best outcomes for humans in general. So I gave you a long-winded answer, but that's generally how I think about it. I'm really big on ethics and work closely with Microsoft's responsible AI team.
Thanks, Amanda. Team APS, can I ask you sort of in general, Amanda mentioned that safety features may be context specific, military use as opposed to business use as opposed to educational use. When you're talking about K-12 use, are there other safety considerations that you feel like are specific to your environment?
Privacy and data security is something we look at almost immediately when new resources are being talked about, because we have such strict guidelines for K-12 use for federal guidelines and all those things need to come into play pretty heavily with AI tools, specific AI tools, and when AI is being introduced, as we mentioned, like into products that are already in play in our district. So that's definitely something that we need to consider. But I would say, like, the thing that I talk about first when I'm talking to teachers is that human oversight piece of that. It seems silly to say that's like a safety and security feature, but it's certainly very important to incorporate that piece first. Like, they're never take it at its face value. It's never your final product. And that kind of blends into like having it built in, that education and awareness. And that's for our staff and for students. Those are three additional components that I think that we really are focusing on right now in order to make sure that it's as safe as it can be in our district.
And
Jackie or Raj, could you also share about recent conversations with Director Queen about
yeah,
safety?
yeah, just wanted to actually add on, Doug, that obviously we have already been discussing this from safety security point. Like bullying was an aspect, online bullying was another one that actually led to it. And now with, like, Amanda mentioned deep fakes and all those things, and then how easy it is for you to generate content that is actually feeding this whole monster is another issue, right? Obviously. So we have already been working with our safety and security. They actually had protocols, and now we actually are expanding on that one, right? That's number one. The second one is, along with what Jackie talked about, we need some more kind of tools. Like, for example, we are rolling out as an extension to our existing content filter another tool called Alert, which actually kind of flags for keywords, kind of phrases that actually a combination of which are going to tell you either it's actually being a targeted bullying scenario, it's actually a self-harm. What there are things that we actually need to kind of keep more eyes on and actually be more sensitive to and react faster than prior. So obviously it's a combination of all of those things. And our team is safety and security team has already been out there looking at it. Actually, we have actually also met with some of the federal authorities who actually have some intelligence, some understanding of what's happening, and kind of tools that are made available. We're actually sharing that information. So it's kind of a multi-pronged approach to actually share the least.
Thank you, Raj. Star, is there anything in the higher ed context that that you could add about safety features for AI?
Well, I think higher education in general may be a little less coordinated on this issue because of, most of our people are over 18, and so there's not quite as we still, of course, have lots of federal laws, but I will say that we do have alerts for some things. I do want to echo something I think might have Brian been bringing it up about the the detectors of AI text have severe problems. You mentioned the Constitution being written by the AI, but the other real significant issue is that it seems that AI checkers most often flag papers from students of color rather than people who have grown up with white English. And so that's another, if you're getting false positives that skew to a particular group because of their unfamiliarity with English, then you've got a real serious problem. But in terms of overall security, George Mason has, a fair amount of internet security and email security protocols. As of right now, I don't know of any initiatives that we have that are really going to talk about AI security per se. We have a cybersecurity program, don't get me wrong, right? As a place where people can go and learn and get certified as cybersecurity specialists. But I'm not as familiar with the efforts and the security and safety things. Mostly, we end up doing FERPA. That federal law says we can't share information and et cetera. So we are controlled in that way. I don't think higher education is yet to a point where they are completely together and their response to the challenges of AI. I think it's really great to see that Arlington as a district has really put some thought and effort into it, has responded to the challenges of students in high schools, clearly, obviously turning in AI materials, and now has a much more robust program. I think higher education is at least several years from actually responding with any significant sets of security policies other than their normal email and internet security and stuff. So I don't think we're quite there.
Thank you. The next question, and I'll throw this one out to the panel. This is very interesting. What are some of the ways that AI may benefit students with disabilities? Anyone want to take that on?
Can I actually, so last semester I taught the basic course in communication, and we have a program called Mason Life. And that brings a small cohort of students who are in a certification program, but that are on the spectrum or have severe disabilities. And so they were in my class and did presentations and did a research project and everything. And I think, probably from my perspective, what AI offers is much more individual tutoring that's already been kind of talked about, but if they are able to get the kind of support that they need in terms of learning materials and responding, I'm hesitant to say we're going to do all our advising on AI. I don't think that's really in the cards because it's such a personal element. We have a whole program of personal coaching as well as academic advising that tries to stimulate student success. So I'm not sure AI will ever take over that kind of stuff, but by and large, I think that helping the students to be able to get educational instruction adapted to their particular needs, their particular format. That's something that's really often even beyond the teacher in the room at the time. And so technology, I think, is really opening up horizons for a lot of disabled students with disabilities, because I think it's going to provide them with the kind of tools necessary to be successful in comparison to other people who already have such natural advantages.
I'll let the APS speak, so I'll just briefly touch on this, but I did want to, just from a technical perspective, delineate between where the technology is today versus where it's going. So today, where we're seeing where it's really helpful at the moment is speech to text or image generation, and where it's going is I'm seeing, at least in the Microsoft side, and again, I don't speak on behalf of Microsoft, but even Google Glasses that can, for students who may be blind or struggle, they're able to actually input the image, and then the device can tell them what they're visibly seeing, or things of that sort. People who, even from the elderly or people who may have mobility issues, having a device that recognizes when you're struggling or detecting anomalies, and it can alert people or people that you've asked for it to contact within your contacts. So all of those types of just that kind of multiple different types of use cases, I think, are really able to benefit. But the technology is, I mean, it can go really far, including, as he was mentioning, students who may have need more personalized learning. I think AI agents is coming out soon. It's already starting to come out, and this is more personalized. And while there might be like psychological implications, like questions on isolation, it also helps with how students are connecting. So people who may struggle with certain facial detection or how to communicate, how to give speeches, as he was mentioning communication. Now you're having an agent work with you on your language on an individual basis. So in that sense, I think that the technology in the next 5 years will be a lot more advanced and probably more implemented. But at the moment, it's mostly limited to speech to text and that kind of just written text.
And I would say that, personalized learning and differentiation is nothing new to APS. It's something that we've really focused on in the past for quite a while. But just the ease of being able to generate that kind of instructional materials is a huge support from generative AI. For instance, we use AI tools to generate real-time captions for students who are deaf or hard of hearing. They can follow along as people are talking. That's something that we have in Teams. We have lots of personalized learning materials in the generative AI tools, such as being able to simplify complex text, or providing multiple ways to engage students with the material that they're given. And our students also use Apple devices, which have a lot of built-in accessibility features that use AI in order to enhance their education and provide more accessibility to the instruction, such as voice control. It provides live text, sound recognition. There's also an assistive touch feature built into iPads that allow for physical disabilities to be enhanced. All of those tools, like we mentioned already, AI has been around for a while, but these tools just keep getting stronger and stronger all the time.
That's great. I think we have time, if everyone's okay with it, for one last question. This one is directed to APS. And it is, has APS seen examples of AI exacerbating behavioral or safety issues? One example that Amanda mentioned earlier was referencing kids creating child pornography, for example, using AI. What's been your experience as far as, does AI have an impact on student behavior?
I'm going to take a shot at this one. Actually, based on the data I have actually seen, I don't think it actually has been a kind of a trend that we've seen a vertical tangent on the number of issues or anything of that sort. So it's kind of maybe because, there's a lot of control on the devices that APS actually uses during schools, because, we actually use our devices, personalized devices. They actually have content filtering on it, and they know that the content is all there and available and accessible. But we have not, at this point of time, in a short answer, seen a huge or any kind of an issue at this point of time. And knock on wood, I would like to keep it that way.
Yep.
Let's get, well, on that note, we'd like to thank everybody. This was a terrific discussion and a great group of panelists. I think we're just scratching the surface on AI and just all of the fascinating issues that AI brings to us, and the discussion could be endless. So thanks again to everybody for attending tonight. If you mark your calendars, join us on January 8th, 2025. We'll have a new program. We will have a topic out to you before long. We hope to see you then. And I'd like to thank Jill Schenk and all other Advance Arlington members who had a hand in putting on this event tonight and making it all happen. And thanks to you for attending. We hope to see you again soon.
Thank you.